Hello everyone, what's up? How are you? I'm doing fine. So I went to Edinburgh at the end of June for my birthday and it was absolutely magical. I love this city so much and I honestly wish I could live there, but I can't, so ugh. And like the good tourist I am, I of course reserved all the good seats with my towel, but I also filmed everything I did in Edinburgh, including all of the amazing bookstores that I went to in this literary haven of a city. And that's what we'll be talking about in this video. So just a little bit about Edinburgh in general. In 1508, Scotland's first ever book, The Complaint of the Black Knight, was actually published in Edinburgh. So the city was clearly meant for books and book lovers. According to this list I found in terms of Edinburgh's most famous authors, there's obviously all of these super important classic white dudes who wrote books in like the 18th, 19th and 20th century. And that of course includes such classic pieces of literature as The Sex Lives of Siamese Twins, which I'm sure we're all really interested in. That's such a lie. This book isn't even about the sex lives of Siamese twins. And it's not even set in Scotland. But I really do want to read some of these authors because I've never read any of these books, I don't think. So I really should get to that very soon. In 2004, Edinburgh was actually crowned UNESCO's first City of Literature. So that's really cool. And while you're all already booking your nice holidays to Edinburgh, let's talk about the amazing bookstores you should visit while you're there. So I'm going to be talking about the bookstores I went to first, and then I'll be talking about all of the lovely books that I got in these bookstores. So you can kind of skip around. If you're only interested in the book haul, then skip to that time point. And if you're here for the bookstores, then you're welcome. So let's start with Edinburgh's New Town, or basically the places that I think are New Town based on me googling this and looking at a map for like a few seconds, but yes. First up, we have Golden Hair Books. Now this shop is quite small, but it does have an amazing selection of all genres and age groups that you could possibly be looking for. It is very well curated. I was in there for ages just picking up every single book and reading what it says on the back. They also have a little children's section in the back, which was really cute as well. Obviously, because of 2020, good old Miss Rona ruining everything for us. They do now also have an online bookstore, so if you can't physically go, you can order from them online. They also have a book subscription service, which is called Postbooks, and that's kind of aimed at highlighting small presses and indie publishers, which I think is just really cool. Overall, this bookshop was just so lovely. It looks beautiful. All of the staff were absolutely amazing. They were so lovely. I also bought a pin there, which is really cute as well, and I just really love this bookshop. It's in Stockbridge, which I found to be a very pretty area. We had very good food there, and just generally it was just really lovely. Next up, we have Topping and Company. This is located really close to Calton Hill, which is where you get this amazing view of Edinburgh. You've probably seen pictures of this view before, so if you're planning to go to Calton Hill, you might as well stop by this lovely bookshop afterwards. They have 70,000 books over 2 floors, and it was just so big. They have these amazing, really high shelves with these rolling ladders everywhere. All of the windows were really big, so it lets in a lot of like natural light, and it was just so beautiful, and I loved it there. They have other Topping & Co branches in St Andrews and Ely. I don't know if you pronounce it like that, but yes. And also in Bath. And like all of the other locations as well, the Edinburgh Topping & Co also hosts loads and loads of amazing author events. They have talks and questions and signings and like everything. I wish I could have gone to one. Obviously at the moment they have a lot fewer in-person author events, but they do have quite a few virtual ones according to their website, and they do still host some in-person events in the store as well at the moment. The whole shop was just so beautiful, and there were so many books. I was there for ages just browsing all of the different shelves, and it was amazing. They also had a lot of signed books and like special editions, which I found really cool. They had a little table in the front of the store with all of their special editions and signed books. Just overall, I loved the store so much. Again, the people were super nice, and I just ate to all of the shelves. There were so many books there. The whole store was just brimful of books. There were just so many books there, and I absolutely loved it. Really close to Topping & Co, we have have maybe my favourite one on the list. I don't know, I can't really pick, but it is Tybronger Bookshop. It is right next to McNaughton's bookshop, so that one sells second-hand books. Unfortunately, I couldn't go in there because the queue was just too long, and they don't obviously have a lot of space in the store for social distancing and everything, but it did look very nice. But Tybrongers I did go into, and it was lovely. As the name suggests, they sell both typewriters and books in this lovely little bookshop. They are Edinburgh's smallest bookstore, but to me, definitely the most charming one. I felt so much joy in this bookstore. The whole atmosphere of this bookshop was just great. The guy who worked there was absolutely lovely. He chatted to us for a little bit, and then he also gave us loads of tips on where to go to, like other bookshops to explore in Edinburgh, and it was just amazing. And what was really fun about this bookshop as well is they have this typewriter that is connected to Twitter. So if you tweet something at them with the hashtag type this, then the typewriter will automatically type out your tweet, which is just so fucking cool. What's really cool about this bookshop as well is that when you buy a book, they ask you if you want to get it stamped, because they have their own little bookshop stamp, and that's just so cute. And you also get a lovely little bit of origami. So I got this lovely little dragon. Isn't it just so cute? I love it so much. Yeah, he's a little book dragon and he's gonna guard my books just here. You can have loads of different animals. I think they had elephants and bats and frogs, which also sounded really cool. I love this bookshop so much. And with all the typewriters, obviously I love typewriters. It was just, I loved it so much. Now let's move on to the Old Town. I do want to move into the Old Town. That would be lovely. I'd love to live in Edinburgh, but okay. So in the Old Town kind of area, we have, of course, Edinburgh Books, which is the largest secondhand bookshop in Edinburgh, apparently. This one was, again, just amazing. They had books stacked up everywhere, all over the place. It was so cute. It was kind of your typical secondhand bookshop where the books are like stacked or higgledy-piggledy all over the place, and I love that. They seem to have a lot of books about Scotland and kind of by Scottish authors, which would have been the perfect time to buy some of these books by Scottish authors. But unfortunately, I didn't buy anything in this shop. Still, this shop was just really cool. I just love secondhand bookshops so much. They're the best. It's so cheap and you never really know what you can find in these, so that's why they're so cool. And just down the road from that, we of course have the one, the only, the Pinterest bookstagram bookshop aesthetic of your dreams, Armchair Books. Now I don't really know how to talk about this bookshop because, to be honest with you, I didn't have a great experience there. First of all, there was a sign in the front that was kind of discouraging you to take pictures or videos, and they said something like, if you think the spines look pretty, wait till you see the words inside. Like, that's so condescending, like as if people who take pictures of books don't actually read books. I feel offended. I mean, granted, I do take pictures of books that I don't actually read sometimes, but I feel like that's such a weird thing to put in front of your bookshop. If your bookshop is cute, let people take pictures of it. I know that it gets annoying when people try to take loads and loads of pictures, but I don't think it's that much of a problem. Even if it is a problem, you could have said it in a nicer way that doesn't sound super condescending. I didn't really want to film anymore or take pictures there anymore because I felt like I'd be told off for it, and that just wasn't a good feeling going into it. And then the guy who worked in the store was just very rude. He seemed really fed up with everything, customers in particular. There was this one girl who asked where a specific book was, and he was like, have you checked over there? And she was like, yeah, I have. And then he got up like huffing and puffing, and then he walked past and he was like all annoyed. The vibes I was getting from this man just weren't good. And obviously I realized that people have bad days, that's completely fine, but don't be so overtly angry with your customers. I don't think that's okay. So that kind of ruined the experience for me. I didn't end up buying anything in the store because I just didn't want to, but the actual store itself was so amazing. They have such a good selection of books. There were so many like popular books, so many books that I would consider buying, and they just have a massive selection. I just loved it so much. It was really cute the way everything was stacked up, and yes, it is Instagrammable. I'm sorry, but if your bookshop is cute, let me take a fucking picture of it. So overall, I would still definitely recommend this bookshop. Everyone loves it. It's so overhyped. I think that guy was just having a bad day and it kind of ruined it for me personally. That's just that specific day. I don't think that's the same every day, and I think you should still definitely go there. Next up, also in Old Town, really close to the Grass Market, we have Transreal Fiction. This is just down the road from Greyfriars Kirkyard. If you're going there, you might as well just stop by this lovely little bookshop while you're exploring Edinburgh, because they have a great selection of sci-fi and fantasy books in particular. Obviously they have all of the classics like Lord of the Rings and Brandon Sanderson and like all of these big authors, but they also have so many authors that I had never heard of, which was just so cool. There were so many books that I was looking at that sounded super interesting that I'd never seen anywhere, and I think that's such a cool thing. It was quite small, but it seemed very well curated. Again, I'm saying that a lot in this video, but it seemed so well curated because they have their little niche and they're so good at that little niche. I didn't actually buy a book there, so that definitely gives me a reason to go to Edinburgh again and actually buy a book there because it's so cute. Next up, not too far from there, we have Blackwell's bookshop. I read somewhere that this is Edinburgh's oldest independent bookshop. I'm not sure if that's true, but it sounds good. Blackwell's was founded in Oxford in 1879, but obviously they've since opened stores all across the UK, and I do really like them. To me, in Edinburgh, they're kind of an alternative to Waterstones. If I don't feel like going to Waterstones, I'll go to Blackwell's because they both have obviously really big selections. The online bookshop for Blackwell's is also really good. I mentioned that in my last bookshop video about Brighton bookshops, and I love ordering from them. They sometimes have really good editions and for really cheap as well. Apart from books, they also have loads of stationery in the store, which I absolutely love. I'm a stationery hole. I love it so much. Just generally the way the bookshop was laid out. I loved the crime section. It was so cool. Yeah, so this is definitely a really good bookshop to go to in Edinburgh, and online if you're looking for an online bookshop. And the last bookshop I went to is Portobello Bookshop. Now this is really close to Portobello Beach, so if you're going to Portobello Beach anyway, then definitely go to this bookshop because obviously it's a bit further out of like the centre of town and like Old Town, but it's definitely worth a visit. It was so good. This was actually one of the bookshops that was highly recommended to me by the guy working in Typewriter Bookshop, so I was so excited to go there because I obviously love Typewriter, and then I also love this one, of course. And again, this shop was so well curated. I just loved their selection because they had loads of really well-known authors and books that I've seen kind of everywhere, but they also had really kind of obscure authors that I'd never heard of that just sounded so good. I bought a book by an author that I'd never heard of, and I'm so excited to read it as well. It was just super fun browsing their selection, and the booksellers were really lovely again. They also had lovely little stationery bits, which again, I loved. So yeah, this bookshop was just so nice. It was really pretty, it was a good size, like not super big but not super small either, and I just loved it. So that was all the bookshops I went in Edinburgh, which were all amazing, but there are still two that I didn't manage to go to, which I'm very sad about, because one of them is Lighthouse Bookshop, which according to their website is Edinburgh's radical bookshop, so that just sounds so cool. According to their website, they're a queer-owned and women-led community, and I just love that so much. I can't believe I didn't go there. I'm so sad. I feel like my time in Edinburgh was just way too short, and I definitely have to go again because this bookshop sounds amazing. And then there's also Tills, which is a secondhand bookstore that just looks so good. So I definitely have to go to Edinburgh again, and then I will show you around these two bookshops as well in a different video. But yeah, these are all the amazing bookshops you need to go to if you're going to Edinburgh. Now let's move on to my book haul. I bought 6 books in these bookstores. They were very heavy to carry back home. That's why I didn't want to buy any more at some point. I mean, 6 is probably enough, so yeah, let's go through them. First up, we have the mystery book that I bought in Golden Hair Books, which you can see me unwrapping here. This is the book I bought yesterday at Golden Hair Books. It's a breathtaking anthology of two-spirit and indigiqueer speculative fiction, bold and visionary. So that's why I picked it, because I thought it sounded really good. That worked. Love After the End. So this is what the back says. I didn't really explain that right in the video clip because don't understand these words. It does have a lot of complicated words on the back, okay? So yeah, it is Love After the End. This book was written by Two-Spirit and queer indigenous writers from Turtle Island, and according to the summary, it's showing the strength of Two-Spirit and queer indigenous people throughout the difficulties of settler and colonialist history and the influence that had on them as well. It is sci-fi, which I didn't expect, but I think it's so cool. It's got bioengineered AI rats and transplanted trees in space and a Two-Spirit resistance camp, and it just sounds so good. The last line of the description says, "Love After the End demonstrate the imaginatively queer Two-Spirit futurisms we have all been dreaming of since 1492, which I think is just so powerful, and I'm so excited to read this. In Topping and Company, I actually bought 2 books, which are these 2 books. First of all, we have The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green, which is a signed first edition, which is, I'm just so excited about it. Now, I've already read this book and I loved it so much. I think I described it as poetry for dumb people like me who don't understand poetry, so yes. This is a non-fiction collection of essays written by John Green about the most random things you can think of, like scratch and sniff stickers, but somehow John Green manages to make some deep emotional connection to humanity and kind of a metaphor for humanity overall, and I just loved it so much. It made me cry, it made me happy, it just made me feel so emotional, and I just loved this book. So I had to have it as a physical book because I only listened to it as an audiobook, and I'm so excited to read it again and just mark all my favourite quotes and everything, and obviously a signed first edition. Not gonna say no to that. Beautiful signature right there. Yes, I absolutely love this. The other book I bought in Topping & Co was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I bought the pink version, even though there's also I think a blue version and a yellow version, and they're all just so cute. I love that there's different colours of this. It's a really random thing to be excited about, but I am very excited about it. So this book is about a woman who works in a convenience store. Clearly, who would have thought? This is obviously set in Japan. From what I can tell from the summary, the main character is very much into rules. Her parents thought she was a very weird child, so they were very happy when she actually got this job. So now she can kind of conform to society. However, 18 years later, after she got the job, she is now 36. She still has the same job, she's never had a boyfriend, and she only has a few friends. She feels comfortable with her life, but obviously there's a lot of family expectations and societal expectations put on her as a woman specifically. And then a new guy starts to work there and he's very cynical and bitter, and I guess upsets the main character's comfort level. It just sounds super interesting, and just the general theme of kind of family expectations and societal expectations, especially for a woman in Japan. That just sounds super interesting to read about, so I'm super excited to read this. The book that I got at Typewriter was Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. I know that I got it at Typewriter because I had them put their stamp in this book. I also got this beautiful, beautiful bookmark, which is just so cute, and this is the stamp that I got. Look at that. It's so beautiful, it's rainbow coloured, I love it so much, it's such a cute stamp. So this is a very popular book, which won the 2019 Booker Prize, and she was actually the first black woman to ever win that prize, so that is amazing. And it was also shortlisted for the Women's Prize of Fiction 2020. It's about being black and female in Britain and kind of the intersections of gender and race. So the book is about 12 different black women in Britain, and their stories are completely different, and then it's all about how race and gender affect them individually, and I think that sounds super, super interesting. I'm sure I'm gonna love this. It's future, it's past, it is fiction, it is history, it is a novel about who we are now. That just sounds so good. So I am, again, super excited to read this. I'm gonna say that about all of these because I wouldn't have bought them if I wasn't excited to read them, but yeah. Very excited to read this. Next up, the book that I bought at Blackwell's was No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. This was obviously shortlisted for the Women's Prize of Fiction this year, and I'm still trying to read all of the shortlisted books. Still not completely done with it, but that's why I bought it. So from what I know, this book is all about how the internet affects you. And I've heard people say that it's a description of social media by someone who actually uses social media, which is obviously very rare because a lot of authors just talk about it and don't actually understand it, but apparently this author does, so I'm very excited for that. I did start this book, but I couldn't really get into it. I've seen in some reviews that people say that the first part is very difficult to get through, but then the second half of the book is kind of better, so I'm very excited for that. But yeah, the first part was definitely confusing and weird, but also kind of interesting, so that's good. So from what I know, this is about this woman who's just completely immersed in kind of social media and like the internet and kind of all of the different existential threats that are discussed on the internet, like climate change and economics and that kind of thing. And then something really horrible happens in her personal life, and then stuff happens. That's all I know about it. So yeah, again, super excited to read this. And lastly, we have the book that I bought at Portobello Bookshop, and that is Nervous System by Lina Maruan. I don't know how to pronounce this. Anyway, this book just sounded super interesting to me. I had never heard of this before or the author, but first of all, it looks beautiful and it also just sounds really interesting. So this book is about Ella, who's an astrophysicist, but she's kind of struggling with her doctoral thesis. According to the summary, she's kind of burdened by memories from the past, and that's kind of affecting her now. And her partner Elle works as a forensic scientist, and he was almost killed at work. And then with her kind of writer's block, Ella kind of finds herself wishing she was ill so that she'd have a reason why she didn't make progress in her thesis, and yeah, is not really doing that well at the moment. And then it's kind of all about her family as well. So her dad, who's a widower, her stepmom, her siblings, and all of their experiences with illness. So generally this book then details the life of her and her family and their affection for each other, but also their resentment and their dark secrets. And I think that just sounds super interesting. And again, I am excited to read this, obviously. I bought it. It just sounds super cool to me. So yeah, so that was it. That was all of the amazing books I bought in Edinburgh and all of the amazing bookshops that I visited. I hope when or if you go to Edinburgh, you can also visit all of these amazing stores. I will obviously leave the links to their websites down below so that you can check them out online as well. Let me know in the comments if you've been to any of these bookstores or if I've missed any of the ones in Edinburgh. And yeah, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.